with one of Steve Jobs' colleagues, and it was the idea that Jobs was always focused on the signal and was able to bypass the noise. And I was like, found that really fascinating. And recently, I've had some clients who've been into positive psychology, a wonderful book by Martin Seligman called Learned Optimism, which I'd recommend to everyone. The research on positive psychology. Some clients who are really into manifesting, and which is tied into positive psychology, but kind of putting it out to the universe and hoping that or believing that the universe will provide. And then I ran across the a book that some of you may have read, the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which is in some ways a contrary uh, perspective on uh, not trying so hard. He mentions Charles Bukowski, a poet I used to love, um, and uh, kind of taking kind of a reverse approach to things and not taking yourself so seriously. And there just seems to be uh, some some conflict with the ideas, and it kind of brought me back to the idea of the signal and the noise. And sometimes when we're focused on the minutia, we can kind of lose our North Star. And what we're trying to do is really focus on the signal and our North Star. And that is not an easy task. But let's get to a little bit of the history of this language. It's actually a term in engineering by Claude Shannon, and way back in the late 40s, uh, and using radio and television, like trying to access signal and then the noise. And then in 2012, Nate Silver wrote a book, who's actually a lot of it is about like sports statistics and gambling, and how sometimes we can get caught up in numbers and they're the wrong numbers. Um, and and his book was called The Signal and the Noise. I haven't read it yet. I'd be interested in. And then, and Jobs used it metaphorically as a way of focusing on great ideas and bypassing ideas that might be good ideas. Now, that was part of his genius that he was able to kind of really access the signal and was able to have an idea of what the customer wants. They don't really realize it yet, and that was part of his grandiosity. But we believed that he kind of knew what the customer wanted. But the genius in that is he was able to stay really focused on where he needed to go. So in a way, I want you to kind of access this for yourself. Like, what's your signal? What's your noise? And even in your day to day, like when you're caught up in things, is this signal or noise? Is this where I want to be going, or is this distraction? The way that I would like you to kind of really think about implementing this is with how you're thinking, your thought process. Okay. And I want to give you some, because sometimes we don't know what the noise is. And part of our life trajectory is we got caught up in noise and we went down a path that involved noise, whether it's a relationship, whether it was a business idea, a career idea, meetings, and we've really felt frustrated. But again, in the spirit of growth mindset, we want to look at frustration and failure as growth opportunities of like how we are learning. How do we get mixed up in the noise? And how does our signal change over time? So, some examples of noise that I think is really important, because uh, there's some kind of basic ideas. Once you kind of work through minutia, you're able to kind of find, the signal, and sometimes the signal can change over time. Uh, One would be comparing your goals to everyone else, chasing every opportunity that shows up. That might be saying yes. Urgent tasks that don't really matter. Kyle really love Stephen Covey, and Covey talked about this as one of his principles. Um, this is my number one that I've been kind of working with people, but other people's opinions about your path, or whether or not other people like you. And I think that falls under the umbrella of the subtle art of not giving a fuck, you know? And that's hard to do when you're a sensitive person like myself, or if this was someone you would like to connect with or someone you work with, and you feel like they don't like you, when you get caught up in other people's opinions about your path and journey, that will hold you back and hold you down. I think the ego is naturally hardwired to really think about what do other people think? What does my boss think? What will my team think? And then, of course, negative talk um, can really be caught in the noise. Okay, and then the signal. Sometimes it's just easier to kind of identify what the noise is because it's like where am I going? Um, and that would be the one or two goals that you try that are tied into what you value, right? We talked about it today. Mentoring. Um, it might be uh, a relationship, but that's even complicated, right? Because you can start getting into noise with your friends, and you're trying to figure out which friend do I want to really spend time with. Um, so you that I sometimes I think of the signal as this kind of like the part of the collective unconscious. It's something that's even like larger that's out there. It might be something that we've ignored and we can't see it, and we want to really kind of open our eyes to it all. And that is in line with the idea of purpose and the green energy. Um, and sometimes we can feel the signal, what feels true after the excitement fades, right? You're kind of coming back to the idea, like, man, this feels like it's a fit for me. This feels like where I'm going. This feels like it's the right path after all the hype of something kind of dissipates. Um, and you know, the work that only you are positioned for, you know, the goodness of fit, um, and progress that you can point to. So it's real kind of big picture stuff. Some of it, like with, you know, for me might be, you know, I think about my son's birthday today, right? You know, it's like that's easy signal stuff, right? I want to spend time with him. But a lot of times, or day to day, I'm asking myself, is this signal or noise? Is this signal or noise? And that is helpful for me uh, because again, it's not coming from the ego; it's coming from like more of an observing self place. Okay, so in the business focus, uh, you know, it's like sometimes it's learning how to say no. Uh, every yes to one priority is a no to 100 other good ideas. Right. So protecting the signal means having the discipline to cut and not just add. Right. So that I think that comes with experience sometimes. Um, you know, so that's saying like really kind of like where do I have to shift my energy? Where do I have to say no? Um, and really kind of focus on the direction of the signal. Um, and sometimes with our customers get caught up in noise, right? And we need to kind of help them through that. What's the underlying need for our customers and our client? You know, and we're trying to help them recognize the signal and what's the noise, and that can be a real complicated process, right? Um, Especially when there's a little bit of a pushback or a customer's not happy. And kind of, you know, the idea of like more dashboards don't create more clarity. Um, take just being caught up in so many numbers and ways of assessing things can just be flooding for the mind, especially with social media, how we're inundated with information. It can be a lot. So track this a small number of measures that actually predict outcomes and can be helpful for you that's aligned with your signal. I want to throw in this idea of Alan Watts, the backwards law. That's the law of reversed effort. Like sometimes when you feel like you're trying too hard or you got a grip on what you think is the signal, let go. Just let go. Step back. Don't push so hard. Alan Watts was a philosopher in the 60s. Some of you may have heard of him. Um, uh, he'll say something like, don't try, and which goes against, how the ego works. We're conditioned to like keep pushing, or positive psychology or sports psychology of like keep pushing, keep pushing. But in when we're caught up in minutia and the noise, sometimes we just need to let go and let go of our grip and release, and the signal will reveal itself. Okay. Here are some other ways to kind of see how a signal will emerge. Does it repeat, right? That feeling of like, I'm coming back to this idea, maybe Amy's idea with the catering business. It's like I thought about this, and then I got busy, and I got stuff going, really exciting stuff in my personal life, but then it's kind of coming back. Or we might feel signs from the universe or from God or from others. It's like you're trying to see the big picture, really step back, really step back. And when you're in a place of burnout, or you feel like really lost, you want to step back and see what are the patterns. Does it predict would be a little bit of like a business idea, but I really like this kind of idea. Does it hold up? And uh, and does it hold up in a calm way? Um, and does it feel right when all the excitement fades? Okay, because noise will will kind of fade away, and the signals will repeat itself if we choose to really look at it. Okay, so we just have like a minute or so, and then we'll jump right into some dialogue. But think about one noise. I want you to write it down or just think in your head. Just one task or habit or opinion you're considering that you want to give up some energy with. It might be thinking what other people think of me, or it might be uh, trying to make a good impression on someone. Take a moment to write down one kind of noise area that you want to just release from your life. And then take a moment to think about how you would like to amplify one signal in your life. A goal, relationship, some feedback that you want to give more time and attention to. And you might not know exactly. There are going to be some easy ones, um, but try to stretch it a little bit. Try to use your imagination, your creativity about a signal that you can feel is coming to you, a goal that you feel like you want to pursue, that you it might not be tangible yet, but it's right there. Okay, while we're doing that, why don't we just kind of finish up the presentation right here and just open this up for some dialogue for a few minutes.